Man, what a guest we have on today. I don't even know where to begin with this guy. His name is Rich Keller. He's got a list of things and accomplishments that he's done in his life. That's incredible. The only thing better than that is full story. Rich was what I call a corporate soldier, worked in marketing for some of the biggest brands out there, worked to a great high level of success. Woke up one day, found out he had cancer. Man, had to go in for the battle of his life. He came out of it and realized this is not my purpose. Corporate America's not for me. He became a personal branding expert. He started this thing around what's your one word? Rich's one word is catalyst. You're going to hear all about how he got to it, how he created it. Rich has his own business and he's on a path to changing 1 million people's lives. He's a TEDx speaker and an all-around great guy, really infectious, good guy to be around. He's uplifting. Let's not wait anymore. Let's dive in to Rich Keller. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Rich, alas, we are here after a long wait. How are you today?
I'm great, and I'm so grateful to be here, Vic. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
So nice of you to say. I'm grateful to have you here. I did a little research on you prior to our show. I'm going to tell people how we got together here, but I'm like, this is going to be fun. This is a real interesting guy who's been through a lot of stuff, and he still has the biggest smile on his face you could possibly, anyone human could possibly put in their face. So I got to figure this one out. I'm sure he's got something good to say.
I paid for this smile. I got braces. I got braces at 41, and I paid for this. So, but it is contagious. Yeah.
Hey, I like telling people how we got connected. So, if you don't mind,
please.
I joined a group back in the summer called the Outlier Project, and it's a place where like-minded and sort of, I guess as the mantra is, where people are going for it, so to speak, right? And so you're around people who have entrepreneurial spirits and they're creative types and artists, and they're in all walks of life, whether it be finance or, mechanical or the arts. But this group is incredibly diverse and people from all over the place. And I'm new to the group, and I'm like, wow, this is a cool group. I gotta connect with some people. I bet a lot of these folks would be great to be on the podcast. So I open up one of the message boards there, and hey, if anybody's interested in checking out the podcast and coming on as a guest, sort of, and here's a little bit of a list of criteria. And the thing I always say is, hey, if you've got a big social following, great. But if you got a great story, even better. Because I think content first. And listen, not to sound like a follower's whore, but
right.
If you have a presence, it's helpful. And if you don't, that's fine too. I want to have a great story. So it's good for all of us. So Rich shot me a note, and I did my usual search to see what Rich was all about. And I even skipped the 15-minute intro call with Rich because there was enough content on you out there, buddy, that I was like, oh, we don't need the 15-minute call. I'm all in with Rich. I'm all in. Because normally what I do is I'm like, hey, let's have an intro call. I want to see, because sometimes, we might not have a chemistry, and, who wants to pull teeth in a podcast? You have a podcast, you know what it's all about. So
you bet.
I didn't tell you that. That's how I was like, I skipped over the 15 minutes. I saw your content.
That's
I read
great.
some of your stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm in with Rich. It's
so
great.
You do a 15-minute. That's cool. Cause I do it as well. And I was like, oh, he just wants to, go right to the thing. I'm like, great, let's go.
I do a 15-minute intro call with everybody. I even did one with Kate. And, we could have turned that into a podcast. She's just so fantastic.
Chemistry. Lindsay Dowd, who is one of the outliers with us, always does. She calls it the chemistry call. I'm like, that's a really good name.
It is good. It's really good. Hey, Rich, introduce yourself to the audience, please.
I certainly will. My name is Rich Keller, the Catalyst, and I'm going to get into that a little later. I like to tell people that I am a 31-year cancer survivor. I'm married to a 14-year survivor, and I'm incredibly blessed to still be here because every single day,
goosebumps.
Thank you. Every single day is like my last. I had testicular, my wife had breast, and to have two kids who can say that their parents are survivors is pretty unusual. I quit my career at age 50. I walked out to start what I have today, which I'm going to share with you.
Hmm.
And really, just simply, people always say, well, what do you really do? And really simply, I help people, and I'll get into the people that I help
Yeah.
discover their personal brand in one word. Okay. And that one word I call your core value. And
Okay.
it does two things. Your core value is the thread to tell your story from the past, and it's your compass to guide your future decisions. That's it.
I love
Everybody
that.
has a everybody has a core value, everybody has a one word, and you want to take on the challenge, as I tell people, let's go. And that's
You
me.
know, I love it. And you see a lot of times, somebody said to me, why do you always put your chin on your hand in the podcast? It's a move I have when I'm hyper focusing or highly intrigued. And
Wow.
it's funny. I just looked up at the screen. I'm like, oh, there I am again. Because when you said that, when I think of a core value, like I heard, people talk about core values and how they're important. And I've done episodes on core values with people, and have one coming up with somebody who's fantastic. But for you to, I mean, when you list out a core value set of core values and you ask somebody to rank them, I don't care how you look at it. There's always a number one, right?
Absolutely.
And people struggle with that. Well, this is a number one, but that's a number one. No, no. At the end of the day, what is the tip of the spear? What's the number one? And so you've really getting people laser focused, right?
Clarity.
Not that they don't
Clarity.
have other values, but what's the compass?
Yeah, so I'd like to define that because that's a great question. Because I get people all the time that say, I have core values. And I'm like, okay, so
Yeah.
what I like to say very simply is I spent 25 plus years in corporate brand marketing. The
Hmm.
definition of branding, the general definition in my book is helping others win. The definition of personal branding is how do you help others win? So your
Okay.
core value, your one word is what I call, you can think of it as a superpower if you want. I call it a core
Okay.
value. It's what
Okay.
you give away to the world to help others win.
Wow.
That's it.
That's
And
huge.
because we're here to serve. And I'm not
Yeah.
spiritual, I'm not woo woo.
Yeah.
We are put on this earth to help others. We help our kids, we help our
100%.
friends. So the idea of the core value is simply my definition of personal branding. How do you help others win? And that thread is the one word to tell your story, and then the compass to guide you. Because if I'm not using my one word, I am not going to be happy. I'm not going to have a robust financial future, and I'm going to prove that today. So
Yeah.
the goal is everybody has one core value that they're born with, and my job is to extract it from the person, because we live in a society that tells us what you do is who you are, and I'm here to tell you that who you are drives what you do.
What you do,
And that's
man.
the difference.
It's so refreshing. It's so refreshing because imagine going to dinner with a stranger or someone you just met, and the typical question is, "So, what do you do?"
Yep. Or said another
Wouldn't it
way,
wouldn't it
okay,
be unique? Hey, who are you?
well, how I got the idea was, I'd love to tell the story of how this whole thing came to be because it's pretty
Please,
crazy.
please.
Yeah. So, I developed this process called the one word in corporate America. At
Okay.
every iconic brand I worked on, I would I would create the identity of that brand in one word. Okay.
Just what were some of those brands, just so the
Yeah.
audience can get a sense of
Yeah.
where you came from?
Yeah. Oreo is in the connection business.
Okay.
Godiva is in the generosity business. Planters Peanuts is in the freshness business. Snickers is
Wow.
in the satisfaction business, and I'll get into that. How that all
Man,
parallels.
I got it, but holy cow. All right.
So one day, my son came in the kitchen. He beginning of senior year, around there. I was working at a lingerie company. I was still in the corporate world, and he said to me,
Okay.
his name is Zach. He said, "Dad, I have alumni interviews coming up, and I would love for you to help me prepare for them." And I said, "Sure." It's what I do for a living, marketing.
Yeah.
And I asked him one question that changed my life, his life, and where I am today. I said to him,
Okay.
it's the opening of my TED talk. I said, "Tell me about yourself." And he looked at me and he goes, "What do you want to know?" And I said, "Zach, just tell me anything." And he started telling me about being on the baseball team, liking fantasy football, liking video games. And I looked at him and I said, "You don't know who you are?" And he goes, "Why would I know that? They don't teach us that in high school." And all of a sudden,
Okay.
in the kitchen, I said, at the light bulb, this is when personal branding wasn't big. This is probably
Yeah.
like 2018. Okay.
Okay.
And I went, "Oh my God, brand, iconic brands in one word. Maybe people brand." I called it people branding at the time. So
Yeah.
I said, "Zach, I'm going to do something with you for the next couple of weeks." He goes, "Whoa, couple of weeks? I got work to do." I go, "No, no, no. You got to work with me," because he was applying to college.
Yeah.
And in my head, I had not a program yet and I hadn't left corporate. I came up with the way to get to his one word, and we worked at it. And finally, we got to his word, which is persevere.
Okay.
And the kid never gives up. Okay. And I said to him, "Now that you're applying to college, I want you to go up to your room for the next week, talk into your phone, and tell that admissions committee a story about
Yeah.
how you are a perseverer so they know who you are." And he wrote an amazing story about a campfire event at Sleepaway Camp. It was not a positive event. His team lost. Whatever the story will be, you'll listen to my TED Talk, the listeners. But
Yeah.
he got into Cornell University. And
Congrats.
that was the moment. Thank you. And that was the moment. I hadn't quit my career yet, but that was the moment I said to myself, I wonder if I can help other people do that. So fast forward a couple of months, and I'm at work one day, and I was working in a very toxic culture at a lingerie company. And I was getting my performance report. I was walking in to get the report. And if you asked me, Vic, Rich, how do you think you did? I would have said, I had a good year. Wasn't the best, but I definitely had a good year. He hands me the report and I'm reading it. And I went, "This doesn't sound right." And I said to him, "I don't think you
Is
gave
this
me the
the right report?
That's exactly what I said." And he goes,
Yeah.
"No, it's your report." I got like a 2 out of 5. I haven't gotten a 2 since middle
Ever.
school.
Yeah. Ever.
Ever. And I got up and I closed the door and I had a pad in my hand and I drew my check. And I said to him, "I'm going to make a deal with you. I'm going to give you 6 weeks notice. I'm going to leave with my head held high if you give me these 4 things." And I listed the 4. And he said to me, "That's the guy I hired 2.5 years ago." And I said, "That's the guy that can't do his job here. You've given me this authority with no power. And so I won't tell anybody for 5 weeks." And that's what happened. I left head held high. But that night that I did that and I quit, I came home. My kids were in the kitchen. My wife was at the table. "How was your day?" And I said, "I quit my career today." And my wife looked at me. She's unbelievable. She said, "Good. Now go conquer the world like you've always wanted to." And I said, we may have to downsize. I may make notes." She goes, "I don't care. I just want you to be happy."
Man.
And and almost to the point where I didn't want her to say that. I wanted her to push me out of the house because, most people would be
No,
like, "My husband did
you got
what?"
what you needed.
Right. So I came up here to this office, and when you leave a company and you have the dinner and everyone's like, "I'm so inspired by you, Rich,
Yeah.
empowering, you're going to do great things." I came up to this office and I cried my eyes out. And I said, "What the hell did I just do?" But I knew that I was never going back to corporate. That I knew, but I had no idea what I was going to do at that point. Until one night, I was talking to friends, therapists, my financial planner. A couple of weeks later, I'm in bed. True story. My wife's an OBGYN, so we never sleep. The beeper's always going off. And I opened my eyes. True story. I stood up and I nudged her and I said, "What happens if I transform 1,000,000 lives one word at a time?" And she looked at me and she's like, "That sounds good. We'll talk about it tomorrow." And the next morning, she's like, "That's really interesting. I'm going to get 1,000,000 people to understand their core value, their superpower that they give away. And 8 years later, I'm still here. And through the way, I'll share the whole story and journey, how it happened. But people laughed in my face when I told them okay. And I just sat
That's
here.
how you knew you were onto something, by the way.
100%. And
that's how you knew you were onto something.
And all because I saw the transformation in my son when he knows confidently that he is the person that never gives up. And I was just like, how could I not try to to help other people. And my wife was like, we'll downsize, we'll live, we'll, whatever. And I was like, why not try? And I tried, and I'm still doing it. And I went at it. I started speaking. I started writing a keynote. I started listening. I had no idea what the one word really was, how to articulate it 8 years ago. But I listened. I got coaches. I went to school. And the rest is history. And I'm here today, and I help high school students get into college. I help college students get a job. To answer the first question, tell me about yourself. I help a lot of entrepreneurs figure out what they're selling, because they're actually selling their core value.
Yeah.
And I work with business leaders because they want to know how to navigate up the corporate ladder. And I'm like, you navigate by giving them your core value and trying to find spaces that allow you to put that out there. And I'm just grateful to be doing what I'm doing.
Well, listen, there was a reason why we got put together. There's a reason I skipped the 15-minute intro with you. And it's all becoming even more clear to me today. I want to share with you a similar corporate story that I haven't yet told on this podcast.
Let's go.
I worked at Bear Stearns prior to the crash. I was there for the crash, 2008. We fell into the arms of JP Morgan Chase. Chase is a great company. Okay, JP Morgan Chase is a great company at 50,000 feet. When you are in the organization, you could be working for one of 10 companies, all because your experience at that company is who your boss is. Okay, I had a boss who had very smart guy, super smart. I've actually made it a point to keep a relationship with him because intellectually I'm super intrigued by him. He's funny as they come. But as a leader, he really only ever demonstrated, I'm not going to say he didn't have more than, because that would be certainly unfair, but he never demonstrated that he had more than an 8-pound hammer in his hand.
Wow.
So he ran a very tough ship. And I ran a section of technology business. So, think of the pecking order. There was Jamie Dimon. There was Frank Bisignano, who now is running Social Security for Trump.
Wow.
There was Guy Chirillo, who was the head of all of technology. Mike, was my boss, and I reported to Mike. So,
wow,
senior team, right?
Yeah, I was going to say you're pretty high up.
I was pretty close to the brass ring, So we were working to improve the company in many, many ways. And so me and my team led the way with really being able to report on our business and our outcomes and our value in a way that hadn't been demonstrated. And we killed ourselves to do it. Okay. We delivered more. We delivered a higher quality. But I had gotten in a bit of a run-in with Frank because he had an idea to change a system, and I didn't really support the idea because I knew it would get squashed by the internal grapplings of what goes on. Like his idea at the top level was great, but from an execution perspective, the way it worked here wasn't going to work here.
Yeah.
And when I wasn't in the boat and rowing, I became the anchor.
There you go.
So I took myself off that project and I ran another section of the technology. And when the year came up, I got a meets minus. So there was exceeds, meets plus, meets minus, needs improvement. It was a 2. Okay. In your 1 to 5 scale, right?
Yeah.
In my life, I had never been anything but a meets plus or exceeds. Ever.
I smile and I get at least a 3.
Yeah. Ever had I ever been anything like that. And I said, and a week prior during one of our team meetings, my boss's team, and I put on a 60-minute presentation about how we sort of deconstructed the originations business and how we report on our value and how we're measuring projects and improvement. He said, this is the standard by which we will all run next year. Quote. I come out of there like Tarzan, Rich. I'm like, and so when he gives me the meets minus and dings me 50,000 less than last year in the bonus after the hardest year I've ever worked in my life.
Yeah, I bet.
I said to him, let me correlate this. I've created the standards by which your entire organization is going to run going forward. But yet, because I was vocal about something that didn't align with the top, it appears I'm a meets minus. I said, I'm not concerned about the grade per se. I'm concerned that maybe you're a very tough reviewer. Maybe the guy down the road is a very easy reviewer. So maybe somebody who contributed less to the organization than me
Yeah.
is a meets plus or an exceeds. But by your standards, that guy would have been a needs improvement. And for as long as you are here, that's okay. But if you move on and leave and the new guy comes in and he goes into the system and goes, who do I have on my team? I got this guy who's a meets minus. He's the first guy I got to get rid of. And he goes, I'm not going anywhere. You'll be fine. I resigned 2 weeks later.
Good for you.
I resigned 2 weeks later. I had been being recruited pretty aggressively outside of the firm, and I split, and that was that. But I at that time didn't go into my own business. That didn't happen till years later. But at that time, I recognized my self-worth and
Yeah.
that there was a lack of values alignment in what I did and where I was and where I was
Totally.
working. So
Totally.
I share a similar instance. You took the giant leap, which was great. I went on to another corporate job or two, and then ultimately jumped out into my own business and then launched this podcast 2 years ago. Certainly not paying any bills with it, yes, but I'm learning a ton. So,
what I wanted to
it's been
say,
great.
what your comment about the way I did it, what I've realized now is I did it exactly how my one word is. I gave to the company, I blew it up. If I called you and said, I'm going to do this, you would have probably said to me, can we have a chat? I had to do it the way my one word superpower is. I had to blow it
Yeah.
up. And then, so a lot of people ask me, like, what safety net did you had? None. I mean, I had
Yeah.
a marriage. I certainly worked for 30 years. My kids
Yeah.
were going to college. So, but no, I just sat and and it's funny that you say that, Vic, because my kids reacted very differently. My son,
Mm.
who was leaving for Cornell, a couple of months later, his first reaction was, I'm still going to college, right? I said,
Yeah.
absolutely. And my daughter,
Yeah.
who has a lot of money trauma from when my wife was sick, my daughter was 9 and my son was 12, and she brought all her new clothes into the kitchen, and she's like, I don't need any of these. And so I remember saying to both of them, sit down,
Wow.
sit down. And I looked at them and I said, number one, I would never do anything that would impact your lives in a negative way intentionally. And number
Yeah.
two, watch me. Watch me. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to show you what hard work, what discipline, what habits are. And to this day, they both say to me, how do you do it? And I'm like, that's how you're doing it. I'm watching you in
Yeah.
medical school. I'm watching you as a consultant. So there's a lot, what's the famous word? It's your actions that people, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Mm-hmm. What'd
And
you
that
do?
was it. So I did it my
Amazing.
way. And I don't, um, I'm very careful to say, I don't recommend you do it my way. Do it based on your one word, which is your superpower and what you give away. So
Amazing.
good for
Hey, I
you.
want to go back to something. You're wearing your survivor bandana on your head.
Yes.
Um, I could only imagine. I can't tell you that I know because I haven't been personally through it. But as I shared with you before we jumped on, I've got there's been a lot of cancer in my family, and I've watched loved ones go through it. I'm assuming that resilience and tenacity have sort of helped form your identity. And I could only imagine that a lot of them have come through that cancer journey. What was that like when you found out you were diagnosed? How did you handle it? What was the journey like? Just bring me through that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you say that because I always tell people I have a person has about 10, 12 values, but one core. And obviously one of my values are, tenacity, resilience, adaptability, and so on. But I'll take you back just a little bit, because I actually don't wear the survivor buff. I wear it for the cancer, but I wear it there's a bigger reason for it. So to start with, I grew up in a very challenged home. I was sandwiched between the football star, my brother, and I was a twin. I'm 2 minutes older, so I am a middle child.
Okay.
Sister, who was a softball star. So the
Okay.
football and the softball star. And then you had chubby old me, who was the bowler. I did bowling in high school, and I'm very proud of it. And I'm
Okay.
happy to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a home where my parents fought all the time, 24/7, 365. There was never a time in the house where it was calm.
Were they fighting, or is that just the way they
No, no, no,
communicated?
no, no, no. They were fighting. They should have never been
Okay.
married. No disrespect,
Okay.
but they shouldn't have been married.
Okay.
And I grew up invisible. I grew up invisible. I grew up in the house where I didn't. Nobody understood me. Nobody was willing. I felt like nobody's at the time. I just felt like, what is all this chaos going on? I used to clean the kitchen and make dinner because I thought if I brought everybody to the table, which I learned later in therapy,
Mm.
that I can remedy the situation. And I
Yeah.
just couldn't. Okay, so I
Amazing.
grew up. I grew up very alone. Even my twin sister, who I was close with, but I was smothering her. Like I was clinging to her because like my parents were not around. They were fighting. My brother, we didn't have a relationship. And one day while I was a teenager, I started wearing bandanas. And I didn't know this until therapy, like as I'm going backwards now, but I wore bandanas and eventually people, when I didn't wear them, would go, "Where's your bandana?" Or I would wear the bandana and they would go, I like that. Like, I like that, and I had various ones before the
Yeah.
Survivor Bus came out. And I started realizing, I guess, I look back now and I'm like, people noticed me. Like I was invisible, people like, and I had a lot of friends. I was smart. Like, it was typical, like, living. I grew up in
Yeah.
I grew up in Brooklyn and we moved to Staten Island. And then then I had cancer. And then
Yeah.
at 26 years old, I woke up. True story. I mean, this is really a funny story. My wife's father is my gold. I mean, he's 85, knock on wood, healthy. He's my gold. His name is Bert. And I fell in love with him before I fell in love with my wife, who I've known for like, it took me like almost 7 or 8 years to commit to her. And I love this man. And I'm like, how do I make this man my father? Okay. And I
Yeah.
loved him. And my wife was in medical school at the time. And I surprised my wife with a trip to Colorado to ski. We never went skiing
Hmm.
there before. True story. This is really funny. And while we're there, I noticed that I'm just my testicular pain. Like, wow, this is really painful. And everybody told me, you know, I thought when you fly, like, your deodorant gets big, like you're going over the Rockies. True story. I thought like, okay, it must be swollen, like
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I've got altitude symptoms.
Totally.
Yeah.
And,
I
everyone's
weren't
like,
puking.
yeah. And also it's like,
Yeah.
they're like, come on, Rich, like you're crazy. And I never missed a day of school. So I wasn't like hypochondriac or anything. And I remember getting home. We flew home, and my wife's parents went to pick me up. True story. I can't believe I'm telling you this. And I said to my father-in-law, who's also a doctor, he's a pulmonary specialist, or was, he's retired now. And I said, Dad, because I had committed to my wife then. I said, Dad,
Yeah.
can I talk to you for a minute? So I brought him into my room in New York, and because my wife lived in Philly, so I
Yeah.
don't know why we were in New York. They picked us up at the airport, and I said, Dad, I love you so much that I'm going to pull my pants down because I need you to tell me whether I have testicular cancer or not. Like that's how crazy I was. And
Wow.
I said, don't look. I said, I can't, this is how crazy I am. And you know what? I did it. He always carries gloves because he's a pulmonary
Yeah.
specialist. And he's
Yeah.
like, no, he's not. He's like, you're fine. And that was God. I was like, I'm fine. I'm great.
Yeah.
And like a couple of days later, I'm like, I don't think I'm fine. And I ended up going to get a testicular sonogram. And a week later, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. And of course, my father-in-law, he felt a little bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't his fault.
I'm a pulmonary guy. What the hell do I know?
Yeah. And I was naked in front of you. Like now I want to take it back. And I have to tell you, when my wife was in medical school at the time, she was a resident, and I was in New York, and I don't have a great relationship with my family. And honestly, I thought I was dead. And
Wow.
the story that's even funnier is to tell you never go to Google. Do not go to Google. And I went to
Yeah.
Google and I read the stat that the 5-year survival rate of testicular cancer is like 97%. And I read it as I have a 97% chance of living 5 years. That's how I read it. And I remember my wife in medical school, and I'm like, you're lying. You're in medical school. You're not telling me the truth. And when I realized what it was, I was like, oh, okay. So this is actually a good cancer to have, which I always say to
Okay.
people, like the best one. But I have to tell you, I was on an HMO. I was paying $5 a month. I had no idea how I was going to get this treatment. And my father-in-law swooped right in and he said, pack it. He said, I did my surgery in New York. He said, pack your bags. I'm taking you to Philly. You're moving in with my daughter and I'm getting you the
Wow.
right treat. And I have to be honest with you, like it was a whirlwind. It was a whirlwind.
Holy cow.
And wouldn't you know, that week I got into Wharton Business School and my first choice was Michigan and I got rejected. So talk about stars aligning. And so I moved in with my wife because I knew that I was going to Wharton's 4 months later. So I figured, let me get my treatment in Philly across the street from the school. And honestly, Vic, it was a whirlwind. Like I didn't believe that I was going to be okay because I didn't really everyone that had cancer in Brooklyn growing up died. I mean,
Yeah.
you heard, and I
They're still
remember that.
dying, Rich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember the day. It was a Friday. I was done with treatment and school started Monday and I almost canceled because I was so weak and I just said, "No, I'm going for it." And I went for it and every 6 months I went across the street. The first 5 years, the scanxiety, I even have it today 31 years later, but every twinge, every, nook, every cranny. So but I have to tell you, it was the best gift that ever happened to me to this day. I look back now, I'm like, that really shifted my entire mindset on what's important in life. I didn't realize really shifted until my wife got sick 14 years later, but
Yeah.
it started to really make me understand that life is really short. And at that time we had no internet. It was just starting. Like we didn't have what we had today. So yeah, that's my story. And that it really shifted me.
Wow. Incredible. You know, my mother's cancer shifted my own personal
Yeah.
mindset
Yeah.
around. It changed it. I didn't go through it myself, but when I resigned that job at Chase, he said to me, "You sure you want to do this?" He said, "What about your career?" And I was 52, 53 at the time,
I was 50 when it
52.
happened. Yeah.
And I said, "Career? I have a career." I said, "My mom passed away at 63. If she's the standard of my longevity, I got a decade left. I need like
Got
two
it.
more jobs." I
Got
said,
it.
"And as far as retirement's concerned, I need two or three. Need to string along two or three more roles, and I'm done." I said,
Yeah.
I said, "I'm not 22 years old. I have
That's
no
right.
idea what you're talking about career."
Absolutely. I want to talk about something that you just brought up, and I will admit to all your
Yeah.
listeners that, when you have cancer at 26, by the time you're like, I don't know, 38, 39, while it's in the back of your mind, you start to all of a sudden go back to the way of life like you're invincible. It may not happen to you. It happened already. And I got to tell you, my wife's cancer at 43 solidified my wake up call. I almost feel like he was looking at me up in the air, looking, or she, or he, as my wife says, was looking at me and
Huh?
going, I got to jolt you again because you're a good guy, but you're starting to not appreciate. And my wife came home one day. I was on a business trip and I walked in the door and she's like, and she's an OB, by the way, for your
Yeah.
listeners. And she goes, "Oh, I'm going to get a breast check. I think they think they saw something. I'll be okay." And I was like, "Excuse me?" I was like, I dropped everything. I'm like, "I'm going with
Yeah.
you." My kids
Yeah.
were 9 and 12. My son's bar mitzvah was 6 months away. And
Hmm.
we got into the hospital and I said to her, "I don't want to know right away." And my wife works there. She's like, "That's not how it." Rich, because they know me. They're gonna. So
Yeah.
I remember being in the room and the breast surgeon, who's a friend of ours, I saw the look on her face. It wasn't good. And she's like, let's test it. It's probably we caught it early, whatever. And I will never forget. And I just want your listeners to really understand how life can change in an instant. We were walking in that evening to my daughter's concert at school. She's 9 years old. And we got the call from the breast surgeon. And I just saw my wife's face turn white. And
Hmm.
she got off the phone. She said, "This thing is like 10 centimeters. It's huge." And I'm like, "What?" And I remember her saying to me something like, I don't know if I've had patients walk out of the office alive that I've detected and diagnosed. And we knew nothing at that point. And I tell this story because what came on during the concert was For Good. I Have Been Changed for Good by Wicked. And we all,
Holy cow.
and we couldn't say anything to anybody as before. not tell the kids we didn't know. And we were
Yeah.
crying our eyes out, and everyone's like, don't you love this song? And I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, do they understand? You live in this world where you can't say anything yet. And I, we're through it. My wife is fine, knock on wood. She's
God
miraculously
bless.
alive. Absolutely. But that woke me up to this day, 14 years later, where I am lucky to still be here. I am happy to help people. As an outlier joining the community, I am
Yeah.
like impact over income, because I'm going to be gone at some point like
Yeah.
this, and we're blessed. And he or she looked at me up there and goes, now you get it. Now you
Rich, the
understand.
interesting thing about impact over income, that's a priority, but not an outcome.
Right.
Because when you're focused on impact, the income comes in.
You bet. It comes in bigger than
Yep,
it when
it
you
comes in.
totally. Yeah.
You told us about how this one word framework came about and
Yeah.
how you developed it through your son. Amazing story, and a very lucky young man. Have a father that's bringing that, because one of the things I talked to a good friend of mine who's an executive coach is all the things missing in high school and in college that kids
Yeah.
don't get in part of a regular curriculum, like the stuff you're doing
Yeah.
is unbelievably huge. I mean,
Yeah.
what a
I'm seeing
difference
that.
maker. Okay.
Yeah.
I want you to break down how you got Catalyst for us.
How I got Catalyst. Okay.
Yeah, how you gave yourself Catalyst. Like,
Okay.
what was the process that got you there, and what does it mean to you?
There's a story behind that as well.
I
I
knew
love
there would be.
I love telling stories. So my son discovered his word, perseverer. I decided to quit, and I'm sitting in my office one day, and I said, I remembered a recruiter about 6 years earlier. I applied for a job that I was so qualified for. I walked into the recruiter's office at the end of the
Yeah,
interviews, and I was waiting for that letter to come, that offer letter. And she sat me down and she said, they can't hire you. And I went, what? She goes, you're a catalyst and they're looking for a babysitter. At the time I was like, not a big deal. I didn't understand it. And I was so devastated.
gift.
And then, yeah. And then while I was going through my travails after I quit, I went, oh my God, she was trying to tell me that what I do is I blow things up and simplify. Period. End of story. And if you put me on a brand, I'm not going to babysit the brand. I'm
Yeah,
already looking for 5 or 6 things. And they actually gave me a gift that day. They were like, you're not the right person for the job. But
totally.
all I walked away with is, they hate me. They don't like me. How dare they not give me the job? And years later, when I started doing my program, I put myself through my program and I went, bingo. Oh, and it's in my TED talk, the whole story. Oh
Yeah.
my God. She told me, and he is now a perseverer, and I'm ready to try and go and solve and go and uncover other people's one words. So that's truly how it really came about. Somebody told me, but I didn't listen until I had to listen, and came to be.
Have you ever given a thought that there may be a set of or a set of categories or a subset of one words? Listen, I was born in March. I'm a Pisces, right? And
Sure.
there's a very big definition around, if you follow that stuff, about what Pisces are like. Do you think that your one words are infinite? Because let me read you what
Yeah, please.
ChatGPT says about Catalyst here. They give us 3 uses: a general use, a business and personal development, science and chemistry. And I'm going to stick to business and personal development, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. In business or personal growth context, a catalyst is something or someone that sparks change, accelerates progress, or helps transform ideas into action. Now, to me, that's exactly what you described. But I could probably see a lot of people wearing that T-shirt.
Let me be very clear.
Okay.
There are 100 beverages on the market, 100 cereals, 100 phones. You can have an entire room of catalysts. And I love that you asked me that, because
Okay.
how you bring your identity to life is your way to stand out. So the way that when I work with entrepreneurs, there are 3 questions every entrepreneur has to answer. What problem are you solving? How are you solving the problem? And why are you the person that can
Yeah.
solve the problem? Number three, why am I the person? Because I'm a catalyst. Number two, how am I solving the problem? One word. Number one, identity. So I solve identity through the one word because I'm a catalyst and can do it. But the next
Yeah.
person could be totally different. They could be a catalyst
Right.
in a company. So that's a great question because a lot of people feel like I come up with individual words for people. Oh no, I've had many people of the same word, but they're different because they're buying you, they're buying me. So
Yeah.
bring your identity to life.
And as my grandmother would say, Rich, it's also the schmata on your head,
There
right?
you go.
And
And the truth is, in finishing the story, when the show came out, and I started wearing, instead of bandanas, I started wearing the
uh
survivor buff, and I was married and I had kids, and I wouldn't wear it to like a wedding, and they're like, "Oh, wait, where's the buff?" And I have it in my pocket, and I used to tell my wife, I'm like, "They want me to wear the buff," or when I would wear the buff. When I would wear the buff, they'd be like, "What do you have under there?" Because I shave my head, willingly. But the reason I wear the buff, and I want you listeners to understand this, because on stage when I talk, I have this phrase. Remember, I told you in the beginning that we're a society that has raised us to believe that what we do is who we are. We
yeah,
are, our identity is tied up in titles, jobs, and so on.
yeah.
So, my message on stage is what you do is not who you are. So, I thought I was a survivor, but I did survivorship. What you do is not who you are. Head, who you are, drives what you do. Heart. And that's
Hmm.
why I wear my word on my heart. So
Love it.
because I love the show. By the way, everybody asks me, "Were you on the show?" Everybody tap me in the supermarket. Pilots, they always, even when I start speaking, when I get to an event, they go, "Were you on the show?" I'm like, "Come to my keynote. I'll tell you." The answer. And no, I
Yeah,
was not on the show. But wouldn't you believe that a schmata,
yeah.
like a nothing, could be so powerful?
It's your
And it
thing.
really is. And you know what? It helps. My company is called Score. Stand out, conquer obstacles, reach excellence. All it takes is one word, and
Yep.
that's how I stand. I stand out with my word and my buff and my
Great.
glasses.
So,
So
you mentioned something about, who you are, what you do versus that. Why do you think people struggle to define who they are versus what they do?
I think that because we're raised, we are raised from day one. So I tell people that work with me all the time, your one word is within you, and when you were little, you actually manifested that one word, and over time, our parents, society. Do you have a job? Do you go to college? Do you have, what cars do you have? What brands are you buying? What towns do you live in? So we are conditioned to believe. And let's use a sports athlete. Like if your whole life is a football player, and society is telling you what you do is who you are, the minute you retire, you fall apart. It's because you have been told by everyone, you have been shown by everyone, and the seismic moment, a job loss, a mental health issue, a death in the family, a cancer, you start to wake up and realize, I'm not just a football player. I'm not just a lawyer. And
Yeah,
that is where I try the younger generation, I try to get them before they really get tainted. But it's because society told us that what we do is who we are. Tell me about
true.
yourself. You even said it. You even said it.
Yeah. Hey, what do
You
you
know,
do? What do you
right,
do?
right. And even
Oh,
tell
hey,
me
nice
about
to
you.
meet you. What do you do?
That's
If
right.
I'm running into somebody, if my son and I are playing golf and we booked a twosome and there's another twosome on there by the second hole, hey, so what do you guys do?
There you go. There you go. And and and
It's like the old proverbial handshake.
That's exactly right. So I try to tell kids, like especially college kids, when you're in an interview and the first question is, "Tell me about yourself," they already have your GPA. They already have what you work experience. Tell them your one word. Start with your one word. I am a catalyst, or
Yeah,
I am an uplifter. And they look at me and I go, "I'm telling you, people are going to say, 'Tell me more.'" And that's exactly what happens because it's unique. It's different.
yeah,
And you
it
gotta
is
you
different.
gotta you gotta break the mold in order to really stand out. So
The handshake greeting. I'm not sure if you know this. Handshake greeting started as a gesture to have warriors put their swords down so that the
wow.
hand was empty. And it's like it was the greeting to say my sword is down and we could meet at a different place versus
Wow.
being met sword to sword.
Wow.
Now we shake hands now Nobody knows why we shake. It's a greeting. It's a greeting.
Yeah.
Shake hands, and the fist bump and the finger trickle, and or
Or
whatever your flavor
the
is.
elbow
Yeah,
now that
your
it's
elbows
COVID.
that came out during COVID. The elbow, the dumbest freaking thing. You realize the elbows put us closer together than the handshake did? It was counterproductive for sure.
Unbelievable. Totally.
But
That's funny.
my
That's
God,
funny.
what a time! I'd be happy if we never talked about that.
Yes.
What a crazy time. Hey, let's move into lessons in leadership topic here that I have.
Sure.
When you come across people who are trying to discover themselves outside of a corporate presence, and there's been a big shift, I'd say, in the last 5 years, specifically from corporate brand to personal brand. And I'm gonna have to take you on a journey. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to take you on a journey next as well.
Here's what I'm seeing. It used to be very important that when you worked for a logo, you worked for a company, that everybody drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was very little room for individuality, uniqueness, personality to come and shine through. You're almost like that proverbial robot, right?
That's right.
If you worked for a brand, you wore that brand, you wore the logo on the shirt, you had a jacket with it on the back, you had a backpack, and you drank the Kool-Aid. You were all about the brand. Then people started finding that through personality, through uniqueness, and maybe not defined as you have come to define it so succinctly, but they found that they could differentiate themselves if they allowed some of that to shine through. Because as you said, you could be in a room with 10 catalysts, but you're you. You're uniquely you. This is what you do. And I would tell you that through my career, I was not always the most highly technical person in the room, but I was the best communicator bridging technology and business in the room by far. I say that with confidence, not arrogance.
And I can tell. That's right.
And so I knew that was my differentiator. My differentiator was for somebody who didn't understand technology, I could get them to explain it. And if they understood it in a way of comfort, they trusted you.
That's right.
But if you stymied them with bits and bytes, they went, okay, I guess we got to just believe Vic.
That's right.
Right? We just got to believe Vic. I used to have a deck of cards, by the way. We called it, they were all buzzwords. I got to find it. It was a big giant deck, 6x9. And it was like, God, I haven't done it in so long, but it was like all the company buzzwords were in there. And I used to make a joke. I'd shuffle them up.
I was just going to say,
guys, today, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put our pedal to the metal, and we're going to make sure that we drive value into the organization.
Target market,
Totally. And it was funny. And I used to be able to do it at will with any cards, and I'd string along like a cohesive story. But here's the point I'm trying to make. I recently watched an acquisition of a company where the company that was acquired, so the acquired company was full of these individual personality types. And it was the sum of the parts that created this very unique whole. So while there was a corporate brand that sat on top, and everybody sort of was handing out, their own flavor of their flavor of Kool-Aid. When they flipped the cup around, it had their name on the back of the cup, but the cup was still the company colors.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a visual. So there were so many unique individuals in this company. Well, the company is a private company and gets purchased by a publicly traded company with a very older, I'm going to just say it, with an older school set of thinking around it.
Mature.
And slowly but surely, as recent as yesterday, and for the past 7 years, that company who acquired this other great company shed all the personality types out. And it is corporate vanilla, robot, math, margin, blah, blah, and as a result, their growth has shrunk.
There you go.
Their market share is going out to other people, right? So
they're sleeping.
In your experience, and I wanted to lead up with that story.
Sure.
What have you seen? What executives, students, and entrepreneurs, what did they get wrong about personal branding, and how do you realign them?
Yeah, no, I love that question. And everybody in personal branding has a philosophy. I'm going to share my philosophy based on the one word. A couple things. I would say personal branding is never about you. It's about them. Okay. And
Yep.
the first thing I say to people is credentials are credibility, not identity. See, what they get wrong is they think the credentials are the identity. I'm a lawyer. I'm a TEDx speaker. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm the president of this club. All that credentials are a credibility for your one word. They're not identity, and that's where a
Let's
lot of people.
pause.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
pause because I want to play this back in small bites. I want
sure.
everybody to absorb it, and I want to absorb it.
Yeah, yeah.
Your personal brand is not about you. It's
That's right.
about them.
It's what you give away to help others win.
It's what you give away to help others win. Okay, let's
Okay.
go. Continue.
The second thing I always say to everyone I work with, including high school students, because it's a business at college, okay, I say to them, be the guide, never the hero of your story. I'm going to say that again. Be the guide, never the hero of your story. Now, it sounds like an oxymoron, personal branding. Personal
Yeah.
branding, it's all about me. No. It's about you telling your story, the thread. You tell your story in the context of being the guide to help the audience who's the hero. So personal branding now all of a sudden becomes, let me build my identity around guiding people to help them. That's why credentials become credibility. I have no problem that you're a TED speaker. I have no
Yeah.
problem that you're president of this club, but you don't tell me I'm president. I do have a TED talk. So as a catalyst, I can blow up your one word. Go watch my TED talk. Now the audience is like, oh, he has a TED talk on this. He must be credible, but that's not my identity. My identity is that I'm a catalyst and can blow it up and simplify.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be clear on that. Be the guide anytime, all through life. Be the guide, never the hero. Help your kids. Don't be a trophy. It's not about the parents. It's be the guide and help your kids get to where they
Yeah.
are going. So I tell people credentials, a credibility, not identity, and be the guide, never the hero of your story.
Freaking love it.
And
I
I
had
just
somebody
want to,
on the podcast yesterday who does a lot of energy work.
yeah,
And she'll
yeah.
say, I'm woo woo, but she's not too woo, but she was great. And we talked about impact and helping people. I'm going to say it again here, and it's going to show up in multiple episodes. I'm going to say this forever and ever and ever. I love that you want to help 1 million people, and that's great. You just need one
Oh, total. Oh,
on your scorecard.
oh,
You
total.
just need one. Because imagine what this
The
place
ripple,
would be like, Rich,
the
if
ripple.
everybody picked that one person.
Oh, totally.
All you need is to pick one, and everybody's covered. Because the
Oh,
math says, so I got somebody and somebody's got me.
that's it. That's it.
Right? You don't need any crazier math than that, but everybody's got to buy in. And so that's why for guys like you, and I put myself in this, like I'm a perpetual helper.
Yeah. People
I have
pleaser.
this saying, you
I'm
raise
recovering.
yourself by raising others, right?
Yeah.
That's been my mantra forever. But anyway, continue. So
What I want to say, which is so important, and I really believe in being the guide, never the hero. And I tell high school kids, this is where it really changes the game for the high school and college kid. You don't need to go into the interview with a college application and boast about who you are. Tell it through a story and then reflect.
yes,
By the fact of that story, I was guiding my friend ABC, and
yes,
I'm still finding out that you're great. I'm still finding out you had a TED talk, you went to Wharton, but I'm not leading with that because that is not who I am. That's my credentials to tell you who I am.
amazing.
And when you go
I love it.
through, and I tell entrepreneurs, especially when you answer question 2, how are you solving the problem? So for me, people used to say to me, oh, you do personal branding, Rich. I'm like, no. I do one word personal branding. Question 2.
Yeah.
And number 3 is why I can do that. The reason I'm guiding you to that one word. So it's never about me, but in order to tell you why I can do it, that's where the credentials come in, their credibility, not identity. If people remember that today, Vic, game is going to change for them and they're going to want to really understand their superpower.
I almost wish, and maybe there's another time, I'd almost like to help you get out of being seen as a personal brander.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's bigger. And I don't know what that word is or what that description is, because you can't,
It's a great
uh,
question.
what do you do? Well, because people would say, like I have a friend, he was a Robbins guy. He worked for Robbins for many, many
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a life coach. No, he's not a life coach. Right? That's in a, he's an executive coach, and he works primarily in big business. It's a different job. He's not dealing with, now, while he does talk about personal things with people through their journey,
Of course.
he's not a life coach. And life coach became this thing that anyone who went out and got a certificate became a life coach.
Same thing with personal branding.
Personal branding, man, for the amount of people that are on my LinkedIn that attack me and approach me every single day that want to help me up my personal brand. If I had $1 for every one of them, I wouldn't need a personal brand.
That's right.
And there are so many people out there doing it, and some are doing it well. I think, by the way, Kate Ladon is the absolute real deal.
I follow her.
One of my new favorite people. I had her on the podcast. She's
great episode.
Really, really great thinker and a great speaker, and just a 10 out of 10, as I told her. And then there are others that got look at me pictures, and here I am in my beautiful life, and there are a million of those, and it's like, it's all about, hey, model me, model me, model me, model me.
Right.
Not
That's
what
right.
you're saying. Hey, no. How can I help you launch? And I think what you do, Rich, as I'm gaining more clarity here, I think it's distinctly different. I would not in any way, shape, or form put you in the personal branding category. It's bigger.
That's really interesting. I love that.
It's bigger. And I'm going to think about it. I'm going to come back to you with my thoughts on it, because and these things are hard to explain and hard to define so that everybody understands it. So I recognize you just can't change who you are and what you do, or how you describe what you do in a word that everybody, and then it becomes sort of,
well, I was going to say a couple of things. One thing I've learned in branding is you can't change everything. So the reason that I'm using personal branding right now is because we know it, and I'm saying one word. You. But I hear what you're saying down the road. But I also want to tell you that that's how the thread and compass idea came up. Because I want to give you an example so your listeners understand, like, what the hell is this one word? What does it mean? So I'm going to do it. The exercise with you.
Okay.
Just follow along. Okay.
You got it.
Tell me the first word that came into your head when you hear Apple. First word.
Pear.
Okay. The brand Apple. First word.
Oh, what's the first word? The brand Apple?
That came in. No, what's the first word that came in your head when I say the brand Apple?
There isn't a first word. I have so many. I'm overthinking it.
Just
computer.
Okay, great. Beautiful. That's exactly what I expected you to say on stage. I take people through the journey. Okay. Yeah. You just told me what Apple does. They do technology. They do phones, computers, so on. Okay. Imagine we're having coffee and I ask you about the Apple brand. You have an Apple. Why do you buy Apple? What do you think they're selling you in one word that has made them $1 quadrillion? Tell me about the brand. What do you like about it?
You want
one word?
What do you use them? Well, you want a story?
I want to know. Just talk to me. What?
Oh, easy to use.
Why do you use it?
Best experience. High
quality. Stop right there.
Yeah.
Why'd you say easy?
I've never bought an Apple that came with a training manual.
Okay, so how come you didn't tell me the word is simplicity? They're in the simplicity business. You're in the business of your core value. I tell entrepreneurs. Why didn't you tell me simplicity when I first asked you, or easy?
Oh, because I tied it to what they did and not the experience I have.
Okay, but here's the clincher. Tell me what do you remember about Steve Jobs? With every photo, what do you remember about him?
Black mock turtleneck shirt.
There you go. He wore a black turtleneck, jeans, and New Balance sneakers.
Yeah.
The reason he wore on every stage that outfit, and why he went on the stage, is because you bought Steve Jobs, and based on what I study, his one word is simplicity, and all he did was take Steve and Apple, and the bridge is the one word. And he's telling the audience, I'm the guide. I sell simplicity. That's the thread. I'm going to tell you the story of Apple and why they're simple. And then the compass is, if they launch a product that is not simple, it'll never sell. Compass. And that's it. That's my platform. If you can
Mm.
understand as a person, what is it that you give away? And if you're an entrepreneur, create a business out of it. But if you're a high school kid, write it in your personal statement. You hit a home run. They sell simplicity, not phones.
Yep.
Done. And you bought simplicity, and you just told me that. I mean, basically without giving me the right answer, but you said it's easy. That's right. They sell simplicity to you.
I got to dig up the video, and I just recently watched it, and for some reason my recall on it is bad, but Jobs was explaining to people the North Star of Apple. And he said, yeah, some people might say we make the best computers. And I think that's true, but that's not who we are. And they might say, we make innovative products, and that's it. But I don't remember if he used simplicity or experience, but to your point, it had nothing to do with technology or computing. It was all about how it was about the approach or how it made people feel by owning these products.
And if you look,
and that's why Jobs was a genius, by the way, because he saw where the puck was going. He didn't skate to where the puck was and try to slap it. And
people always say that they're so innovative. No, they're not. They take current products and make them innovative. They take phones, they take computers. But the thing is, number one, the print ads, if you Google, some of them are simplicity. But number two, but number two, think different. And all I'm saying is don't think about what you do. Start with who you are. And it is a jarring concept because we live in a society that we do. What do you do? So it's funny because when I speak to parents and high school kids, I'm like, I don't care if you don't work after college. And some parents are startled. I'm like, that's not the goal. The goal is figuring out what your core value that you're going to give to the job that you go to. And then all of a sudden, the game changes. So that's why it's a simple concept, and it's about clarity, and people are not used to it because that's not how society raised us. That's where I come in, hopefully.
Amazing. How'd you get to do a TED Talk?
Okay, great story. I hope your listeners really take this in. This is about discipline, and this is about never giving up. So the story is, I used to give away my program for free in the beginning because I had a big money trauma, and I felt like, what happens if it doesn't work? I don't have to take any money from them, and I would give it to people. And I worked with this coach once who hired me to work with her people, and this coach had an annual conference every year, but it was a women's conference. And I always begged her, can't I speak at the conference? And she's like, no, only women do. And I'm like, well, I'll wear a kilt. I was so, and I said, hey, why don't you interview me about my concept and play it at the conference? So she did that. And this woman, her name is Diana Allen, my guardian angel. I love her. She linked in one day with me and she said, hey, can we talk? I think your concept is really interesting. So we got on a Zoom, and she's probably my age, like in her late 50s. And there was just something about her and her act 2 she was getting into. And I said, Diana, I want to give you my program for free. I want to develop your one word, and I want to help you build your business. And I give it to her, and she says to me, by the way, she goes, how can I help you? And I said, well, you could just do my program. Really, I just want to be able to feel the joy that your impact and all that. And she goes, come on, Rich, there must be something on your bucket list. And I just happened to blurt out, true story. I said, Diana, it'll probably never happen, but I would love to do a TED Talk. And she said, well, when do you know I'm one of the head recruiters for TEDx Manhattan Beach? And true story, I said, oh, no, I was kidding, Diana. I was kidding. There's no way I'm going to get this 1 hour talk down to 15 minutes. She said, great, no problem. She does my program. A couple of weeks later, I give her my analysis. She's a barrier breaker. I allow hyphens in my one word because I own the company, as long as it makes sense. And one day I'm in my office, and about 4 weeks after the analysis, she calls me. And I'm like, hey, Diana, what's going on? And she says, congratulations, you've been accepted to TEDx Manhattan Beach. And I went, Diana, I said, Diana, I didn't apply. She goes, we don't accept applications. We seek people out that have an idea worth sharing. And I went, I don't think I can do it. And she goes, Rich, this will be the hardest 6 months of your life, but you will be in that red dot come November 2023. And I went, okay. And honestly, Vic, I had no idea what I was in for. People, these listeners, writing a TED Talk is not like just putting an essay together. This team put me through the ringer, but you know what? It was the best. Other than cancer, it was the second best gift I got, because that moment when I walked out of the red dot, I started believing in myself, and I'm like, wow, given this opportunity, it's a great equity TEDx Manhattan Beach.
Yeah.
The team was unbelievable. And do you know what? To give back to that team every year now, I'm a speaker coach and I
Wow.
coach because oh my God, how grateful I am. And let me tell
Amazing.
you something. Remember how I told you credentials are credibility, not identity?
Hmm.
That credential has really changed the game for people
100%.
understanding. Right. So all because of Diana Allen one day called me and all because I spoke for free and
That
that's how you do
that
it.
credential is the ultimate stamp of credibility.
That's it. That's it. And let me tell you another thing. It didn't change my life the next day like everybody said it would. That's ridiculous. You launch a book, you don't like, but
Yeah.
let me tell you something. The way that I have been able to leverage it and explain to people what I do before they call me, it has been a game changer.
Amazing.
Diana is the one person who I continue to thank with gratitude. If she had not said that or called me, I would have never done it because I was, 54 at the time. So, yeah, amazing. So thankful.
Amazing is right. Hey, let's do a little rapid round here, a little rapid
Yeah,
fire as we
yeah.
head toward wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Do you have one word that describes your family?
Oh, man, that's a good question. Yeah, I do. I would say blessed. We are
Yeah, I
really
love that.
we are really
I'd
blessed
share
to
in
have.
that.
Yeah, we are blessed to have two parents who are alive still and kids that are healthy and knock on wood, blessed. That's a great question. I never thought of that.
What about we all use the word resilience or resiliency,
Yeah.
but is there a synonym for it that might open up another thought process?
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that question too. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I, I try to speak in one words to
Yeah.
forward my platform.
Yeah.
I would say if you want to be resilient, you need to be adaptable. You have to adjust and thrive through change. So saying you're resilient is another way of saying I'm adaptable
I
because
love it. That
right,
is that's going to be a little bit of a short for us right there.
yeah,
That's a key moment. I'm going to actually mark this clip right now, buddy. All
okay,
right.
good, awesome. I
Hey,
really appreciate it.
is there a brand out there that you would like right now that you really admire that you go, wow, they really got it right. I wish I was on that campaign.
Oh man, there is one. I'm going to make you listeners laugh, and you may
Okay.
laugh with me too. I think. Are we allowed to curse on this
Say whatever you
podcast?
want. Sure.
I I think that dude wipes is fucking brilliant. Okay, I knew you were going to laugh.
Okay.
Let me tell you why.
I'm not
Talk
only
about
a member.
talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Talk about an insight. Talk about being in a
Yeah.
room filled with men and nobody wants to admit that they got
Yeah.
damn dude
Yeah.
wipes. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
number one, they're in the freshness business. Okay, because
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
need a fresh spot,
Yeah.
and they just became the sponsor of the tush push for the Eagles. Brilliant, 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 brilliant.
Yeah. Amazing.
Brilliant. Okay.
Amazing.
And a brand like, and that's the type of branding I love to be on. I mean, I'm married to an OBGYN for God's sake, but like dude wipes to think that they probably said to people, probably said to them, toilet paper, you'll never win. They turned toilet paper into a
Yeah.
juggernaut. I mean, come on.
I mean, but
So
think about it from this perspective. How many wipes have come before them?
unbelievable.
And they were
That's right.
flowery, or they
That's
were
right.
baby wipes, or whatever they were,
That's
or they
right.
were feminine wipes, or they were makeup removing wipes.
That's right.
The
That's
guys
right.
didn't have a wipe, Rich.
That's right.
We
That's
didn't have a wipe.
or we didn't admit that we didn't have a
Yeah.
wipe either. Like none of us
Listen,
would.
We had baby wipes.
That's it.
Right?
That's
what we
it.
had.
That's
Oh my
it.
God.
Although I will tell you, if I was on the brand, and I'm sure they probably know this already,
Okay.
I'm not so. I mean, hindsight's 2020, but
Yeah.
wipes is a little bit hard for the brand name because they've expanded into, bodies, deodorant,
Yeah.
talc, and all
Yeah.
that. And that's fine. Like, I mean, down the road, they can maybe one day they'll be dude,
Yeah.
just like,
Dude
but
brands.
yeah, but talk about freshness and talk about males and talk about secretly we want to be
Yeah.
fresh. Brilliant. Tush push. Love
Yeah.
them. So I'm
Hey,
glad
listen,
you asked me.
it's not only for the bottom. So
That's right.
my
That's
son
right.
has a little piece of property out in West Texas, about 4 acres, and it is like we turned it into like a bit of an outpost. We're in the middle of nowhere. We go hang out there. We've got all human set up for living, but there's a travel trailer out there. And sometimes we're working on the property and you kind of get dirty and you want to freshen up before dinner. And everything in the travel trailer, Rich, is small. The sink's this big, everything's small. Like, and you don't want to take a shower, so you break out the dude wipes, and you're giving her the old wipe down all over the place, right? You practically take a bath with it, right?
Brilliant.
And but they work.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Brilliant.
Rich, tell the audience, and I'm going to put all of your social links, but I like people to hear it if they're driving and listening.
Of course.
How can they get in touch with you for their one word, or to work with their teams or as an individual?
Absolutely. Well, you can go to LinkedIn and type in Rich Keller, the Catalyst. It comes right up. My website is therichkeller.com, only because richkeller.com was bought. So I don't want to sound pompous. Therichkeller.com. My TED Talk's on there as well. And honestly, I just would love anybody to DM me, because I'll talk about brands. I'll give you some exercises that you can do, other brands that I've studied. I just want to, talk to people, but best place is LinkedIn and therichkeller.com. And watch my TED Talk there. Yeah.
Great. I'll put the link to the TED Talk in the description of this episode.
Of course.
Rich, an amazing time with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come on and chat with me. I really enjoyed it. And you are, not only you a catalyst, but you're like a well of positivity and insight and simplicity. And
I just got to tell you,
you're had a great time.
Really, thank you for having me. You're amazing. I'm so grateful that the Outlier Project brought us together. I definitely want to be friends with you. You're cool. And I'm just happy to be here. I'm grateful. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, brother. Have an amazing day. Take care.
You got it. Take care.
Please don't forget to like, comment,